Hi everyone, and welcome to our final info session of UC Week. So sad. My name is Lauren Pang, and I'm one of the founders of Branham Alumni Network, which is a group of alumni from Branham High School, and we're dedicated to helping high school students navigate the college applications process. And throughout this week, we've hosted various student panels where current UC students talk about their experience at their various UCs. And today we're talking about UCLA, and I'm actually not going to be hosting this session, but we have the amazing Saket here to be our host. And so Saket, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you're related to Branham Alumni Network?
Thank you, Lauren. Hello, everyone. I'm Saket Rajesh. I'm part of the Bruin to Bruin Club at Branham High School. As many of you may know, Bruin to Bruin is a club that provides free peer tutoring for all students in almost every subject that we have on campus. We have many different opportunities for both being a tutor and getting a tutor. So if you want more information on that or are interested in joining, please email me and or follow us on Instagram at B2Brenham. So we're going to get started with the panel today. As Lauren said, today is UCLA, our final day. So a quick roadmap, kind of outlining what we're going to be doing today. We have an introduction from our alumni, George, some basic facts about UCLA. We have an interview, and then we finally have a Q&A where you can ask George any specific questions about UCLA. So throughout the entire presentation, throughout the interview, you can go ahead and message George privately if you have any specific questions, and he will answer that at the very end. So with that said, we're going to get started. So George, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm George Vetushko. I'm a sophomore at UCLA. I'm now an astrobiology major, previously neuroscience, so I might minor in that. And currently I'm involved in LGBTQ advocacy, neuroscience research, the housing community for dorms, and also sex ed at UCLA. And in high school, I did NHS, FAIR. I started Athena with Lauren, actually. We both did band, and then I did Russian theater outside of Branham, and also a neuro internship outside of Branham.
So some basic information about the UC campuses.
So UCLA is in Los Angeles, but because Los Angeles is so like sectored off, like kind of like how San Jose has Los Gatos in different sub-cities, UCLA itself is in Westwood, which is really close to Beverly Hills and really close to the beach, Santa Monica. So it's a really nice, like, kind of elevated area where there's a lot of rich people, so the air is really nice. And there's really great food stores, and yeah, it's a lot more like well-temperatured in comparison to like the rest of LA. Like LA is usually hot right now, but here I think it's actually colder than San Jose. Could you go back a slide? We are on the quarter system, which means that we get classes over with a lot quicker, and that also means though that it's almost always either midterm season or final season, so you're almost always studying, but you do get to do more classes and activities. Our student faculty ratio is 18:1. When you first start doing classes, it's going to be more so like a lot bigger. Like UCLA is a huge school, there's a lot of students here. So in the beginning, like your class size might be 300 people to 500 people, but starting your second year, or just like if you're doing a lab or your discussion, which is like a smaller classroom version size of your regular lecture, then you'll have like 18:1 sort of ratios or even smaller. Our acceptance rate is 14%, and like that kind of fluctuates each year. And yeah, our undergraduate population is pretty big, 31K, and that's including transfers. Our most popular majors are usually psych, neuro, and natural sciences bio related. So if you're pre-med or pre-health or pre-psych, that might be you. And we also have a great opportunity program for design, media, arts, film, TV, because we're located right near Hollywood, so you have so many opportunities there. with Tech 2, we have one of the best math and engineering programs in the country. And we are rated #1 top public university over Berkeley. And we're known for #1 in college food nationally, #2 in best student life, #9 best for design, media arts, and #12 in history.
And we have some interview questions. So George, what factors contributed to your decision for picking UCLA?
So UCLA was one of the top schools I got into, but I think one of the most attractive things was not only the location. I really like that it's like warm here, and it kind of stays out like that consistently. During the winter, it gets a little bit colder, so you can actually like wear jeans and stuff like that. And I also loved that it was LA. Like, it's a lot more. Well, we kind of view San Jose as being like liberal and accepting, but LA is like so much more than that. Like, I think San Jose for me at least was a bit like cold socially, and in LA it's just, you will definitely meet like your community. You will meet the people who you fit in with. There's someone for everyone, and you're never really alone in LA or UCLA because there's so many people. And I think that definitely appealed to me, sort of like that, going to college not only for academics but also like to grow as a person. I also got a lot of financial aid here, and I think at UCLA especially, it's depending on your socioeconomic background, it's a lot easier to get more aid, and you can also appeal if you get like a not enough aid that that you don't know like if you can really go. There's also an appeals process, so you can get more aid. We covered that actually in a previous webinar if you want to check out our YouTube channel. But yeah, I think it was a combination of the location, the financial aid, and also just the neuro program here was amazing. So that really appealed to me, just the academics and being able to be challenged at the #1 public university.
Nice. Next, describe the demographics slash kind of the vibe at your school.
We're very diverse. I think it's just an LA thing in general. So you can see like, I guess if you're like more niche racially or ethnically, at like in a place like San Jose where it's majority white, Latino, or Asian, there's definitely a lot more different cultural groups and also different clubs and orgs here in UCLA and in LA in general. And the school itself, I think, is really accepting and progressive. We're a different progressive than Berkeley, I'd say. We're a lot more, I'd say, like warm progressive and pretty open and honest. And I think that also appealed to me. It's a lot less like, not necessarily like competitive solely, but a lot more like supportive to each other. And that also depends what you're, I guess, majoring in. Because pre-med, as the stereotype goes, is often pretty competitive. But in general, I think UCLA is a really great, like, warm place, and we all support each other academically. With Zoom COVID classes going on, like, we make group meets and text each other and try to like desperately save each other and all get an A or whatever. So yeah, I love that sort of support and that kinship between students.
Next, what major activities go on your campus, and which ones are you involved in?
We have a lot going on. I mean, even outside campus, there's like red carpet events in the city. If you're like film, television, there's so many different opportunities. We have a lot of job fairs. So if like you want a tech job or an industrial job, we have a lot of like big companies coming in and advertising or like interviewing students. We have really great sports. Our football team is pretty good, I guess, but I think what we excel in is basketball, men's and women's, and honestly just all women's sports. Like women's gymnastics here is insane. We have a few previous Olympians, like Caitlin Ohashi, and another girl, I forgot her name. Clubs, we have a whole assortment. I think there's like over 1,000, and there's definitely like ones that you might be interested in. There's a lot of like ethnic clubs, cultural appreciation clubs, dance teams. We have intense K-pop dance teams, and they're like have major competitions in the area. Fashion clubs, tech clubs, even like business and medical frats, and that sort of goes into Greek life. We also have a very active Greek life. And internships and jobs, I think, is major here too. UCLA is a research university, which basically means that professors here are hired not only on their teaching ability, but so that they do research for the school. And that allows students to have a lot of like opportunities in just like you're learning under this professor, and then you can also like possibly go into office hours, which is like a separate, it's like tutorial basically, a separate time for asking questions. And you might be able to get a research opportunity. You can apply separately for that. So yeah, we have, I guess if you could name an activity, we probably have it going on.
Sounds very, very diverse. What do you love most about your school?
Um, I think I mentioned before that you're never really alone at UCLA. And obviously that might be like a little bit terrifying at first, but I think that's one of the best things here. Like you constantly are being supported by your peers. There's always someone checking in. It's a huge university, but I think as when you find your space, which you do really, really quickly. When I first came in, I didn't know if I'd like find friends immediately, but it's not really a worry. Like as long as you let things come naturally, they will just come to you. Um, there's so many people here and so many different kinds of people that it will just everything will come to you. Like the resources are there for you as long as like we get better at sharing that sort of information, sharing access. Then it's sort of like this almost like utopia, I'd almost say. Like I love UCLA and just the environment around here. I think it's one of my favorite places.
What's your least favorite part about UCLA, and how do you wish to improve this at your school?
I
How do
think
you, yeah.
academically we're pretty good. We do have some issues with um, our mental health facility here is called CAPS, and it's often like overflowing with students because like so many people want to access it, but we have a limit on psychologists. And another glaring thing is we have a lot of issues with Greek life. I don't know if like you guys are interested in joining a frat or a sorority, but we have like a high incident of like assault rates. And safety is like a big thing at UCLA, and there's so many resources for that. But also it's just an issue among frats and sororities, and that's something that UCLA can definitely step up in like checking frats, checking parties, checking party culture, because that's also kind of like muffled. Like we don't talk about it a lot. There are spaces for it separately, but I don't think they're discussed enough. And sex ed, just like it doesn't do it justice nationally. Like at Branham, I think we still do like abstinence only sex ed sometimes. Well, yeah, UCLA frat kind of culture is still creepy, and you don't have to get into it, obviously. And there's like other places you can go party, like clubs. Um, but yeah, I think that's something UCLA can definitely step up about.
Next, what things would you have told high schoolers their senior year about your school?
I definitely think once you get into college, you're gonna have to step up because a lot of college is like micromanaging everything in your schedule by yourself. Like things will happen, like COVID happened, and you're gonna have to step up and actually do things yourself, like find an apartment or figure out your dorm rearrangements. Actually submit like FAFSA on your own. Classes are going to be a lot different than they were at Branham. Like you will actually study. I did all my like homework at school because I just didn't want to do it at home, and then did like other things after school. But yeah, you're gonna have to take out time for studying. You're gonna have to be active, and there's definitely gonna be people around you doing the same thing. So let those other people also push you and drive you. Like you're not an individual, which I think I also kind of ingrained at in high school. You're part of a community. You're part of like a larger whole, and everyone's working together to succeed. And so definitely take charge of that and capitalize on it because that will drive you to success.
And then that brings us to the end of the set questions. Now we're going to have a Q&A. If you have any questions about UCLA or for George, you can go ahead and privately message him right now if you haven't done so, and George will answer them.
One of the questions is, how much merit-based aid does UCLA give? That's usually included in FAFSA, so you don't specifically have to worry about it separately. But there's also, you can apply for the honors college depending on your GPA in high school. I think it has to be above a 3.5. And that gives you access to other scholarships and other aid opportunities. You can also appeal, but I feel like merit is usually included in to your regular aid. But also definitely like seek out other scholarships. Not all of your aid has to come from UCLA. But also make sure if you get other scholarships, once you get into UCLA, there's going to be like a separate section where you have to write in like which scholarships you got, like how much money, that they just like factor that in. What's the weirdest, most unique thing about UCLA that you've found? Most unique. everyone here is like really weird. And like, I don't think people talk about that. Like, we have a weird obsession with bananas for some reason. Like, people throw bananas out the windows. There's like a banana stand club. People are weird, but it's also like great. Like, people have no social boundaries. People are very comfortable here. I once yelled at my friend across like the mall, "You gave me scurvy," because I just wanted to embarrass her. And I think that's like totally cool. Like, people will do whatever the fuck they, excuse me, whatever they want. And yeah, I think it's like a great part of UCLA. Do you take part in Greek life? Do you feel safe? Do your female friends feel safe there? I don't take part in Greek life. And I kind of went in harsh on the frats. There's also a great thing that we have is like ethnic frats, and business frats, and medical frats, and frats like separate from just like the typical like white conservative frats. And those are usually safe, and they're really like active in the community and do a lot of volunteer work. I think sororities specifically do a lot of like volunteer work and are great like spaces if you want to join. There's also like a queer sorority, I think, that that is gender neutral. And a lot of business and medicine frats are very gender neutral, honestly, just for opportunity. And yeah, I mean, like, it's just getting to know the culture. If you do want to go party, just make sure you go in a group. So yeah, I think like my female friends mostly feel safe. Is just also an issue of just like confronting and being honest about frat culture and actively just like checking in with each other. Like, never leave your friends behind, obviously. Like, please don't leave your friends behind. Have like a designated, possibly sober person or like a mom friend. Just be safe. Is the UCLA and USC rivalry really as intense as it seems? I don't think so. I mean, like, maybe for some sports, like especially like during football season. And I think USC kind of doesn't like UCLA because we're definitely better than them. But honestly, I feel like if anything, academically, there's more of a rivalry between UCLA and UC Berkeley. We're more just far apart, so I think that's what interferes. But yeah, I mean, like, I've been to like USC parties. Just don't wear UCLA gear to USC or Compton, which is where they're located. That's just not a good idea. What do you know about your school's Biomed Engineering program? Oh, okay, so we have a school separately for engineering, and you can do biomedical engineering there. It's definitely like tough, and especially physics here is really intense. And we have something called the Weeder classes. So you take prerequisites, which are like the first things you take, like basic general bio classes or physics. And those are intentionally like a little bit difficult because they want to like make sure that you're really committed to the major. But you're also surrounded by like a bunch of students that are also doing the same thing. So it's definitely manageable. And bio especially, I think, is a lot more manageable than physics. Physics is a little bit more tough. But yeah, biomed engineering is super active. I have a few friends in biomed engineering, and they love it. So, are there performing arts programs for people who don't take performing arts majors? Yeah, we have a lot of like theater groups, musical theater groups. People are like amazing singers here. Like, we had a performance of Little Shop of Horrors, and they were like belting out lyric. It was amazing. So there's definitely like different performing arts. If you're not into theater, there's also like I mentioned, dance groups. Like, you can be part of a K-pop dance team. They like do competitions in the city with other schools too, like CSUN and other schools. And how competitive are the arts programs at UCLA? So I mean, even like if you audition for a team, that is sometimes competitive, or like for a musical theater group. The majors themselves, it depends. You can be like in the major, which is like the same acceptance rate as UCLA, or there's like specific programs that you can apply to, like DESMA, which is design something media arts, and that one's a little bit more selective. I think like the acceptance rate is lower. But just make sure you have like an art portfolio before you submit. And if you email me, here, I'll put my email in the chat. I'll try to connect you to one of my friends in DESMA. How tough is it to double major between departments like engineering, humanities? So I wanted a double major in neuroscience and astrophysics, but that quickly became like, for me, obviously became impossible because those are like two separate STEM things, bio and physics, and like biomed and physics. But if you want to do something like engineering, like civil engineering and humanities, like Chicano studies, that's definitely feasible. Like, those are both different majors, but they have like sort of like overlap in GEs. It's definitely going to still be a challenge. Like, you have to know that you really want to do both majors. and that you're committed. You might even like choose to do a minor later. So you like if you go in with it as a minor first and then a major, that's also feasible. Just make sure you don't double major in things that you're not actually passionate about, and also consult your advisor, because like you won't be able to double major in like astrophysics and then like biology. Those are two unrelated. Oh, but what I'm doing, which is separate, is a DIY major where you literally make your own major. That's also a lot of work, which I quickly found out, because you have to like submit a proposal to the school and you have to like make up your whole entire schedule and major and like contact professors. But if you see that as a feasible thing that you might be interested in, also check that out. But first check out like the majors that exist, because if there's something that you already want to do there, then just do that. Does UCLA still accept SAT scores? Like I know because of COVID, some colleges don't require it. We're UCLA, we're SAT, ACT optional. So you can submit it if you want to, but it's not required. So like they won't count it if you don't submit it. And if you do submit it, they'll like consider it. But usually SAT can only boost your score. The SAT range I know from like students submitted has been like between like 1,400 and up, maybe even like lower. Honestly, UCLA is big on resume, like extracurriculars and essays, and not as much on like SAT. But what you do in high school definitely is important. So just like, don't take that as an excuse. Like just take that as a reassurance. Like you definitely still have a possibility of like getting in, like no matter what your GPA or your SAT score is. How's the poli-sci department at UCLA? I have a lot of friends in poli-sci. They really like it. Usually people in poli-sci also double major in something else, because poli-sci is like a shorter major to complete. But yeah, there's a lot of political clubs here and a lot of political opportunities. UCLA clubs, and especially like organizations in LA, have done a lot for BLM and similar organizations, and poli-sci students are usually involved in that. So if you're interested in something like that, that's definitely like a reason to apply to UCLA. How does UCLA view SAT subject tests? Do certain departments want them? Will I be at a disadvantage if I don't have them? I think you can write it in. I'm not sure exactly, but usually UCLA and the UCs like don't consider SAT subject tests at all. I think if anything, they will boost your applications, but they're not required. And if you do put them, it will just only boost your application. So if you don't have them, that's like, it's fine. I have a lot of friends who didn't do the SAT subject test. Those are usually just for privates. But if you do them, in like whatever score you get, it will just be a bonus, basically. Industrial engineering, like biomedical engineering, it's also really good. We have a really good college of engineering, which is civil engineering, environmental, industrial, biomedical, probably forgetting a few other, electrical. Yeah, so those are all really, really good programs. And you also, as an engineering student, you have like almost an advantage over other physics students, because they keep classes open specifically for engineering students. Like they do a lot of work for engineering students and keeping classes open, because sometimes that's a worry, like, will you get the class that you want? For engineering students, it's often like that they will get the classes they want. And they also they're able to take more classes. There's usually a unit limit, which is like, you can only take up to this many classes, which is usually 3 to 4 for like a regular student. And please don't take more than 4, maybe 5 if like you're sure, but don't take more than that. Is there a better choice between dorms or apartments? I think first year, you're almost always required to do dorms, except for in COVID, obviously. And dorms are really nice, and especially if you get financial aid, part of it is covered. They're kind of expensive with the meal plan, but the cheapest dorm, which is pretty good because it's also partially covered by financial aid usually, is a classic triple where you're rooming with 2 other people. There's no AC, which is not fun, but it's a great like chance to either meet new people or like get partnered with other people you already know. And yeah, it's guaranteed housing for 3 years. So freshman, sophomore, junior year, and senior year, you're not guaranteed housing. But honestly, most people move out before then. Or if you become an RA, which is like you monitor the halls in a dorm, you can get free housing, which is amazing. Apartments, I moved out because during COVID, there's like less people who are able to get housing, and it's also a little bit more expensive. So apartments are a better choice in terms of like financially. You obviously have to know how to cook and like make your own food. So if that's a concern, please learn how to cook. what do you do for fun when not studying or in class? There's so many like extracurricular opportunities, and we have something called like the Enormous Activities Fair, which is like a bunch of clubs coming all together. So it'll be like there's 1,000 clubs, but like maybe you'll see a few hundred, and you'll just like walk around this part of campus. It's like a grove area, and it's like shaded well, so it's really nice. UCLA is really beautiful, by the way. If you look at any pictures or anything, we also like sometimes we sub in movies as like pretend Harvard, or if you watch Dear White People, that's at UCLA. It's like a pretend Ivy League, which we are basically. We're a pretend Ivy League. Sorry, that's unrelated though. For fun, I hang out with my friends a lot. We go to the movie theater in Westwood sometimes. Right now, like we FaceTime mostly. But in a normal year, like you could go out partying, you could go to a club in one of the cities. You can go to the beach, which is amazing. There's so many different things you can do. Also try food in LA. LA food is amazing. A lot better than San Jose food. You can say that for sure. So you'll definitely find whatever you want to do, and you'll have a lot of opportunities to apply to things too. RAs sounds appealing. Can you tell us more about them? Yeah, so you apply either your second or your third year or your fourth year. It is a little bit competitive, so you definitely want to come off as like a person with like social experience, like leadership experience, because obviously a lot of people want to get free housing, but it's super feasible. And even right now, we still have RAs right now. But yeah, I check that more out. Like once you come to UCLA and like get to know the campus and the dormant situation, then I guess you'll find out if you really want to be an RA. And from there on, you can, I guess, figure it out. And probably like talk to your RA at UCLA. Because you'll meet them pretty early on, and they'll definitely like be there and support you as you're getting moved in, because that's basically their job. That's all the questions I have for now.
Alrighty then. If that's it, I'd like to thank George for joining us today and answering some questions. It's definitely very insightful and exciting to learn about. Lauren, do you have anything else? If not,
No, I think that's it. Thank you so much also, Saket, for hosting us today. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and yeah, we'll see you at future events.